welcome to the Marley Bird YouTube channel, brought to you by Red Heart Yarns. In this video, I'm going to show you how to make the charming Slouchy hat. This hat is super wonderful to make, and you will learn a lot of things making it. Whether you're a new crocheter or experienced crocheter, there's going to be something for you in this video series. Let me show you what you need to get started. For the charming Slouchy hat, you will need one ball of the brand new Red Heart Boutique Unforgettable Waves yarn. This yarn comes in many different colorways. You can see just 6 colorways right here, and they have a really great variety. Whether you want to go really fun and funky with a lot of color, or play it safe and do something really subtle with shades of brown and blue, or maybe just a bunch of blues. The sky's the limit. You can really make this project as loud as you want it to be. Now, if you're like me, you like purple, so you will gravitate to this particular colorway called Grape Berry. This is my favorite one. It's so pretty, and this is the one I will be using today. Along with one skein of Unforgettable Waves, you will need a size J crochet hook, which is a US size 10 or a 6mm. Along with the J crochet hook, I like to use a bent tip tapestry needle, and then don't forget your free pattern, which is available on redheart.com. You can find a link to that right down there in the video notes, and while you're down there, be sure to smash that like button, as my kids say, because I know you're going to like this video and you're going to love this hat. So just get that out of the way. Grab your materials, grab your free pattern, and let's jump into this really great project. Red Heart Unforgettable Waves yarn is a long color changing yarn, meaning the yarn is going to do all the work for us. We don't have to change colors to get this great color effect on our hat. When you look at the yarn, you can see all the various shades of color right here. And what's great is that those color changes don't actually change color for a long period of time, which allows you to make several stitches and get a very nice shaded look to your yarn. The yarn comes in a ball like this, and you can take the ball band off and unwind it from the outside, or go ahead and reach into the center and find the center pull. Sometimes you'll get really lucky and just find the center bit. Other times you're going to be like me and have to pull out all these yarn guts. Oh, look, okay, so they're safe. I'm going to tuck those in because I found my end right here. Once you find your end, we will begin with a slip knot. For a slip knot, place the tail of your yarn in the palm of your hand. Take your working yarn, wrap it around your forefinger and middle finger, and when you come up, cross over. Turn your hand over, go underneath the first loop and grab the second loop and pull. You now have a slip knot. Place the slip knot directly onto your hook, and remember that this slip knot does not count as a stitch, and that's forever true in all of your crochet. So if this is your first crochet project, you will not count this as a stitch. Now, depending on where you start in your yarn, you will notice that this yarn comes with purposeful slubs in it. That's what makes it the wave look. So you have a really nice tight spun, and then you'll get a slub. That's totally natural. That's the beauty of this particular yarn. And it doesn't matter at which point you start or where you have your slip knot. That's just start it off and put it directly onto your hook. We will begin by chaining 9. To do a chain, you will yarn over your hook and pull that yarn over through the loop that was just on your hook. That's 1. Yarn over, pull through. Yarn over, pull through. Now, because of these slubs and the natural just twist of the yarn, you want to make sure that you do not accidentally over tighten the yarn where it's extra twisted, and then not tighten very much the yarn where it's super twisted. You want to keep things very consistent. To do that, just make sure that the loop that's on your hook maintains the size of the shaft of your hook. So this circle bit here, where it's not tapered, that determines the size of your stitch. So you want to make sure that this loop that's on your hook always maintains that size, and then you'll have consistency. Let's count how many stitches I have. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Now I will do a slip stitch in the second chain from hook. Remember that the chain on your hook never counts as a stitch, so we'll skip that one, and this is my second chain from hook, and I will put a slip stitch into the back leg of that stitch. So you can see the chain resembles a V, and I'm going into the back leg. Yarn over my hook, pull up a stitch. Now this is a slip stitch. You ready? We're going to pull that stitch directly through the loop on our hook. We'll go into the next stitch over, go into the back leg, yarn over, pull up a loop, and pull that loop through. We're just doing slip stitches. Yarn over, pull up a loop, pull that loop through. Go into the next stitch over, yarn over, pull up a loop, and pull that loop through. It will look a little bit goofy to the trained crocheter's eye. You might be like, I don't know if I'm doing it right. It's kind of hard to see because of the slubs in the yarn. Just trust me, as long as you keep those stitches the same size as your hook, you will have no problem. Just keep doing the slip stitch all the way down this row because that's what the entire brim of the hat is. It's one big slip stitch. And the reason the designer, Christina Mershon, did that is because you get a really great elasticity to the brim of the hat by doing slip stitches. When you're to the end of the row, you will have 8 slip stitches, and you can count those by looking for the V's and count the V's. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. On your 8th one, you will chain 1 and turn. Now working back along this row, we want to work into the back leg of those slip stitches we just formed. So naturally, when I hold my work, it looks like this, holding it in my hand, right? And I might be fooled and think that is the back leg, right? Because it looks like I'm creating V's. When in actuality, these stitches right there, that's the row below. The row I just worked, so that's the row below I just worked. The row I just worked is kind of tilted back here. So if you tilt your work a little bit, you'll be able to see this V and then go into that back leg of that V, yarn over, pull up a loop, and then pull that loop through the loop on your hook. Remember this loop right here, so after you do your chain 1, make sure you don't accidentally make that tight. Trust me, I know I did this on a couple of mine. If you make it too tight, when you come back down the next row, finding the back leg of that stitch is a little bit difficult. Then you just carry on, you guys. You go into the back leg of the next stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, and then pull that through. Go into the next back loop of the next stitch, yarn over, pull up and through. See how this works? When you get to the end of this row, you will once again do a chain 1 and turn, and then do slip stitches into each one of those 8 stitches you just did. So it's this row repeated for 100 times. So once you've repeated it 100 times, it's time to move on to the body of the hat. But I will tell you that if you find you're making your hat for somebody who has a smaller circumference head or a bigger circumference head, it's okay if you need to do a couple extra rows or a couple fewer rows. We can make this hat pattern work for you, and I will talk to you about that as we move on to the next step. But if you can strive for getting the 100 rows, and if for you, you need to do a tally mark, or maybe you have one of those really great apps that you can just put a little tick mark every time you finish a row, I encourage you to do that. Whatever's gonna work for you. If you're like me and you're like, you know what, I just want to get through this because it's a little bit tedious doing these slip stitches, I totally get it. I'm the same way. Just continue doing it until it measures around your head or the head of the person you're going to make it for, and we'll move on to the body of the hat. Let me show you what the finished brim of your hat looks like. Let me pull in one that I've already had complete. And you can see here, when the hat brim is complete, you get this look of some really great wave stitches. Can you see that? And that is because of the thickness and the thinness of the yarn. It's the natural beauty of this Unforgettable Waves yarn that creates that. And then remember at the beginning when I talked to you about long color changes, as we look at this brim of the hat here, you can see how one color morphs into the next color. And I never changed yarns. I used the same skein of yarn throughout the entire project, but it looks like I put a ton of work into it. Score, right? Finish the brim, and then let's move on to the body of the hat. The slip stitch brim is really pretty, isn't it? But it just takes a lot of time. Here's the cool part. You just finished the piece of this hat that takes the longest. The next bit of the hat, you'll have done in no time. It goes really super fast, but let's get there first. The first thing we will do is fold the brim in half with the loop behind the chain edge that we just folded. What will happen is we will work a single crochet into both this stitch and the corresponding stitch from the cast on edge or the chain edge. So when we do that, we will be joining our band for our hat. So let's go ahead and jump in. So you'll notice that it says we begin with the chain 1. So I will chain 1 and then turn. Well, I've already turned, so I'm ready to go. and I will go into this stitch right here and then the corresponding stitch. So a stitch in the magenta color and a corresponding stitch in the blue. Yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, draw through 2. So I'm doing single crochets. I go over to the next stitch and then the next stitch over on the blue. See that? So it's like I have 4 loops on my hook, right? Or not 4 loops, but 4 strands of the yarn I'm working into. Yarn over, pull through. Single crochet all the way down. Make sure as you're going along, because it is super easy to accidentally get off track. You know, maybe you have skipped a stitch or for whatever reason, you know, one of the kids came crying in and you needed to jump away. Oh, I almost did a slip stitch there. Make sure that your edge down here is still lined up, because that will make sure that you don't have one cockeyed bit of the brim. You know, it will all be even. If you're like me, you keep accidentally doing slip stitches, because I've done so many slip stitches lately that that's what's my muscle memory is full on slip stitch. But here we go. We're getting the rhythm of some single crochets happening here. Here at the very end, I will go into this last bit and the last chain there. Sweet. So I have this nice single crochet edge there, and that will go the inside of my hat. So what I do now is I flip my hat, my brim of my hat, right side out. So now my right side is out of the hat, okay? And I'm ready to carry on. So I will chain 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And this chain 4 will count as a double crochet and a chain 1, okay? So I will go ahead and yarn over, and we will place a double crochet into this same stitch. Well, Marley, what stitch do we do? I'm going to do it right there. I just want it to be roughly into the same place as that last stitch, the last single crochet I completed. So this is going to be the beginning of my round. Because I know this is the beginning of my round, I want to mark the place in my chain stitches that I know I will be joining to, just as a signal for me to say, hey, stop, this is where I'm going to join. As I look at my chain stitches down here, I know that I will be joining to the 3rd chain of those original 4 chains. So 1, 2, 3. So I want to put my marker into that 3rd chain, and that's just going to let me know that that's where the end of my row is. Once I've marked my stitch, it's time to do a V-stitch in every 4th row. So I will skip 3 rows and do a V-stitch in the top edge of the 4th. So for me, I made it so that it was like skip, skip, and then come over here to sort of like a valley, go in, around, and pull up, and then do a double crochet, chain 1, and do another double crochet into that same space. That is your V-stitch for this pattern. It's a double crochet, chain 1, double crochet. Skip 2. See where these look like big V's? So we're going to skip those 2 V rows. It's actually, we're skipping 3 rows total. And we're going to come over here to where this sort of valley is. Can you see what I'm looking at there? And we will do another V-stitch into that valley. As long as you're consistent with this, you guys, that's what's most important. If you're like, you know what, Marley, I want to put it into that actual V row, you could do that if that's what you want to do. Okay, but by doing this into the valleys, that is our 4th row from where we had joined previously. And that should make it to where we get around the entire brim evenly if we did 100 rows. Now, remember when I said that if you need to make it longer or shorter, you can absolutely do that. And I would show you how to accommodate the body of the stitch for the body of the hat. To do that, this is how you would do it. When you begin stitching into the body of the hat and you've altered the number of rows you have down here, you can take the time and divide out how many stitches you need to skip in order to have 25 V-stitches. Or you can just go eyeball it and do your V-stitch every 4th row. And then towards the end, if you need to shift some a little bit, maybe you do some every 3rd row and every other row to get it evened up at the end. That's okay. The pattern does call for 25 V-stitches, but it is not the end all and be all for the pattern. Meaning, if you get fewer V-stitches or you have more V-stitches, you can still complete this pattern. It's that simple. It's a very simple stitch pattern. So if you need to add a few more to get around your brim, or you need to add a few less to get around your brim, that's totally okay. So don't get stuck on the 25. All right, so let's keep going. I'm going to continue on doing my V-stitches all the way around the brim. And remember, a V-stitch is a double crochet, chain 1, double crochet. For me, I'm going to be consistent. I'm going to skip my 2 rows of the V's, what I like to call V's. I'm actually skipping the 3 rows and working into the 4th, if that's a better way for you to understand what I'm doing. I'm just staying consistent. Let me get around this brim and I will show you how to join to the slip stitch. I just finished my last V-stitch, and if you take a look down here, you can see that I completed my last V-stitch just before I got back to my round, which is perfect. So what I need to do is do a slip stitch into that stitch that I had marked. Do you have to mark that stitch? No, you don't. If you are comfortable enough to know where the 3rd chain is of the turning chain, you can absolutely just do that. But I know that some people really do enjoy marking stitches. So I've marked it there, and now I'm joined. So my entire hat is now in the round. I will no longer turn my hat back and forth. I will just continue to work round and round and round. The next part of the instructions say to chain 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Again, that counts as a double crochet and a chain 1. So if I want to be consistent with my stitch marker, I would mark it into the 3rd chain, just like so. And I would continue by doing my double crochet into this space right here. So see where we joined, and then we have this space. So we will do our double crochet, and that simulates our first V-stitch. And then we carry on in each and every round, putting a V-stitch into this chain 1 space of the V-stitch of the previous round. So here we go. Double crochet, chain 1, double crochet. Don't do anything extra. Jump all the way over here to this V-stitch round. Make sure you don't accidentally go right here between the 2 V-stitches. You want to go into the chain 1 space, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, draw through 2, yarn over, draw through 2. Chain 1, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, draw through 2, yarn over, draw through 2. Here we go. We do a V-stitch. You continue on every single round just like this, joining with your slip stitch to the marked stitch, and then begin your round with the chain 4, single crochet into that first chain 1 space, and then do a V-stitch into the chain 1 spaces all the way around. Now the pattern states that you do this for rows 2 through 14. So essentially you're going to do it till you're almost out of yarn, because this hat requires only 1 ball of yarn. Having said that, if you've made your brim larger, you might run out of yarn a little bit sooner. So do you need a full 14 rows? Probably not, but if you do want it to be a nice big slouchy hat, you might need that extra ball of yarn if you've altered the pattern. Having said that, if you're going along and you're like, you know what, I've hit row 12 and I'm really comfortable with how it looks, I don't think I need a couple more rounds, you can stop there as well. This is your hat. Don't be a slave to the pattern. You can make this as slouchy or as unslouchy as you wish. So go ahead, finish the body of the hat through row 14 or whatever row you choose, and then we will do the finishing crown shaping and your hat will be done. The body of my hat is complete and I'm ready for the final shaping of the crown. I've joined 2 with the slip stitch to my very first V-stitch, and it's time for me to chain 3. Now I'm going to do a double crochet 2 together into the top 2 chain 1 spaces of these V-stitches. So I yarn over my hook, go into the chain 1 space, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, draw through 2, yarn over my hook, go into the next chain 1 space, yarn over my hook, pull up a loop, yarn over my hook, draw through 2. So I have 3 loops on my hook, yarn over, draw through all 3. Now I will do that once again. I'm going to do that into each V-stitch all the way around. Yarn over my hook, go into the next chain 1 space, yarn over my hook, pull up a loop, yarn over my hook, draw through 2. Yarn over my hook, go into the next chain 1 space, yarn over my hook, draw up a loop, yarn over my hook, draw through 2. Yarn over my hook, draw through all 3 loops. When you do double crochet 2 together, you're essentially partially completing double crochets and then joining them all together to form 1 stitch. So you'll notice that I am working the first part of the double crochet with that first yarn over, but then I pause and move over to the next chain 1 space. Once I get all the loops on there that I need, or my partial double crochets, I yarn over and draw through all 3. I just rotate my hat around and adjust so that way I can get to the next chain 1 space, and voila, I will have a finished hat. This is one of the easiest crown shaping I have ever come across in hat patterns. And it's brilliant because the V-stitch is so versatile and easy to accomplish and adjust. Even if you've adjusted the number of V-stitches you have, you can still do this top crown shaping with the double crochet two togethers. It might come up that you are left with one V-stitch to work into. It will just be as simple as doing a half double crochet and then joining to your third chain of the turning chain to complete that last V-stitch. It's a really easy thing to do, and I will show you how to do that just in case there's those of you out there who've adjusted the number of V-stitches you've completed. Let me get to that point. If you change the number of V-stitches that you made in the body of your hat, there's a good chance that you come up with an uneven number of V-stitches and you will have one V-stitch left, but not a corresponding V-stitch to do a double crochet two together. You don't want to just leave that V-stitch hanging out there, so let me show you what I would do to seal that closed. You don't want to leave this final V-stitch just hanging out there. You want to complete it in some way. And here's what I think is best. If you yarn over your hook, go into the chain one space, yarn over your hook, pull up a loop. Yarn over, draw through two. Now we are just going to jump over to the third chain of your turning chain, yarn over, pull up a loop, and then yarn over and draw through those three loops. We're just going to pull them all together. So it'll look a little something like this, but it won't be anything noticeable as far as something's different in your hat. If you've done it this way, you won't get a big hole, which is much more glaringly obvious than the fact that these stitches are pulled together a little bit more. Doing it this way simulates a double crochet two together without actually doing a double crochet two together, and it adds a little symmetry to the rest of your hat pattern. Once you've done that bit, you want to cut your yarn, leaving a nice long tail. We're going to use that yarn to thread it through the stitches on that last row and pull it together like a drawstring. Let me show you. I've cut my yarn, so I will go ahead, I'm going to chain one and finish off and pull my yarn through. I have a nice long tail going on here. I will thread this onto a yarn needle, and once I do that, all I'm going to do is go to the top of these stitches, all these stitches up here that I just completed, and I'm just going to grab them and pull them together like a drawstring. So for me, I just like to, it's sort of like I'm whip stitching. I'm going around each one. And as I do that, when I'm all done, I'll be able to pull this together and it should close like a drawstring. Now to hold the drawstring closed, it'll be very important that I weave in my ends to the inside properly. Otherwise, it'll open like a drawstring, right? Once I'm to the end, all I need to do is pull on my yarn, and I'm just pulling it nice and closed, just like so. You see how it comes together really nicely there at the top? And I will take my tapestry needle and I'm going to stick it right through the center and flip this hat inside out. Pull that tail through, so now it's on the inside of my hat. Flip my hat inside out. The tail is on the inside of my hat. See if I can pick this up here. I want to make sure this is still pulled nice and tight. Remember, I don't want it to come undone. And so this is my center bit. Right there is my center, and there's like the puckered bit of the drawstring. I like to go through that bit one more time with them all pulled together, just pulling through like so. Okay? And what this does is it really gives them some stability to stick together. I will do this a lot when I'm doing adjustable rings as well, because you don't want those to come undone, and that tends to be what happens on those as well. So I am just popping through all the center bits, and I'm just going down and back. You'll notice that I am going down and back so that way it doesn't come undone. See if I can get this through here. Nice and neat. I'm going through the stitches, okay? So that looks really good to me. Now, because the V-stitch is really big and lacy, I don't have a lot of places I can weave this in. So I will go through this just a couple more times to make it nice and secure. I don't want to put a knot up there because you don't want a knot at the top of your hat. Even if it's a slouchy hat, it's just not good. It's been my experience that you just don't want to do that. Once I've done that, I will take my tapestry needle. I'm going to weave it actually through the yarn. I'm splitting the actual yarn here, and I'm just pulling it through this way. And then I'm going to pop it back the opposite direction, so that way it is stuck in place. Man, I am super confident that that is not going anywhere. Look at that. And I can go like this, and let's pull and see, is my drawstring opening up? Not at all. So I will go ahead and cut this yarn. There we are. And then the last thing I need to do is weave in my tails of the other bits, and this hat is complete. You've completed your very own Charming Slouchy hat by Christina Marchand. And isn't this so pretty? It's so stinking pretty. The color changes are just perfect. And the brim, even though it's tedious, has a lot of elasticity, and it's sure to stay around the head as the hat is being nice and slouched down. I did choose to make mine only 12 V-stitches because I wanted it a little bit less slouchy because my daughter wants it. She actually asked for it last night, and I said, you know what? I will give it to you, because how often am I going to get my teenage daughter to ask me for a project? So of course I'm going to get this for her. Maybe you're going to make one of these for the teenager in your life or for yourself. I don't care. Whatever it is, will you share a picture with me? I would love to see it. If you go to facebook.com/MarleyBird and post a picture of your finished project, I would be just tickled pink. If you like this video, go ahead and hit subscribe so you're up to date whenever more Marley Bird videos are released, and you will be the first to know. Also, if you didn't already, smash that like button. I told you were going to love this video. You should have just smashed it there at the beginning. I'm Marley Bird, proud spokesperson for Red Heart Yarns, and I hope to see you again soon. Bye! Looking for more Marley Bird? Don't worry, I've got you covered. Click right down there and you will find more videos just like this teaching you how to knit or crochet, all brought to you by Red Heart Yarns. Go ahead, click away. Don't be shy. Don't forget to smash that like button.